My name is Jennifer Chang Coupland. I'm a clinical associate professor of marketing at Penn State. I've been here for the last 11 years, and I went to UC Berkeley for my undergraduate education in business, and then to Northwestern for my master's and my PhD. Principally teach Marketing 422, which is Advertising and Promotions Management, and that course has really evolved over the years. Basically, the focus has been on advertising traditionally, but I've moved towards more of an integrated marketing communications focus. So we integrate other types of medium, things like print mail that people might receive, PR, events, that sort of thing, because the world is changing in that direction. I decided to do something a little bit different with the class. I noticed that the world was becoming more multimedia. The students seemed to have this real energy and interest, actually, in learning about developing their own commercials, making their own print ads and such. The students worked predominantly in teams. There were aspects of the course in which they brainstormed on their own, but they generally worked within their own teams of maybe 4 or 5, occasionally 6 people. But I had the class actually do something different this semester, which was work together in some ways. So the teams were divided up so that they collected data from different sources. So some students were in charge of talking to food science faculty, other students were in charge of talking to DUS students who hadn't picked a major, others were talking with chemistry students or food science students, or just a variety of different constituents who might be interested in the food science major. The teamwork was a great idea, I think, because the students really have a good dynamic with one another. Of course, there are occasionally going to be blips in the process, but that's all part of the learning experience, and I think they all came out with a nice finished product. And towards the end of the semester, they actually gave a presentation to the client, to the class, to me, and that worked out really well. I think there was a lot of energy in the class at that time. I allowed students to actually fill out cards with comments to their classmates about things they really liked about their project, maybe suggestions for improvement. The client actually had a hand in extra credit for the project, and so the client picked the top, I think it was 3 projects that they found the most innovative or intriguing that they might actually use in the future. So that went certainly into the grading, and I did sort of the bulk of the grading of the presentations. I think videos are really the future. When we teach in the junior core, for instance, I teach BA 303, which is a really large lecture course. A lot of people are saying that our students today are not used to the idea of just sitting there for 50 minutes or 90 minutes and listening to a professor talk and even click through slides. That's boring, it's not engaging. It turns out the students today, they all have their iPhones or MP3 players or whatever it is. They're very used to being multimedia as people. They're more savvy than we are. So I really think that it makes sense to engage in something like a video project because it's a natural interest of students. It's a natural interest of businesses these days. When our students are getting hired, they end up going into jobs where they need these skills, or they have to learn them very quickly. The students actually really liked the project. I think there were a couple aspects of the project that were a bit risky. One was that we were doing a real-life project, and you never really know how that's going to work. But the food science major worked out really well because it was relatable enough, but not relatable. So the students actually had to do a lot of background research, and as a client, they were great. I think the video aspect of it really added a nice layer. There were teams that chose not to do it, I think, because they shied away and were a little bit afraid of venturing into new territory. But I feel like even those students got really excited about the video projects that were presented in class. And I do know that the students who did the videos got really excited about the project. They would talk with me about it during office hours, and in class they'd raise their hand and say, oh, we were wearing lab coats and hair nets and things like that and looking at the creamery. And so I think it really added a lot to the class. I think really that aspect that you can develop a commercial or you can develop a promotional piece and have something in your e-portfolio or have something on YouTube. And, some students would say, oh, well, I sent this around to all of my family and my mom's now been forwarding it to all of our relatives. And now everybody's talking about this video that we created. That's something really tangible that goes beyond just a PowerPoint presentation, that sometimes doesn't frankly go beyond a classroom or maybe the client's office door, to something that's really tangible and becomes completely universal. I think a lot of us are reluctant to move forward because we're used to having our PowerPoint presentations, we're used to having our projects the way they are. Status quo is very comforting, particularly to those of us who've been here a while. But I think there was a general excitement. At the end of the semester, I was able to distribute the YouTube videos just through a number of links to colleagues, and some of them commented on them, or when I passed them in the hallway, they would mention that they watched them. And it was something that felt really rewarding and tangible in that sense, that goes beyond just sort of chit-chatting in a hallway and saying, guess what, my students did these papers and they were kind of interesting, but actually being able to show them something that felt like turning on a TV or the internet and seeing a finished product. Myself, I would have waited until it became the fashion to have students do videos and things, but I just sort of became motivated and thought, well, I really should do this because it seems like this is what interests students, so let's just go ahead and do it. And so I had a lot of fear actually going into this project because I thought, I don't know the first thing about this. Are the resources going to be available? Is this all going to fall flat? But I felt really lucky with the resources we had available, and the students were really excited and really wanted to make the effort to come up with a polished, finished product.